Well, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the Antec Flux, not the Flux Pro, this is just the Flux model. This one at the moment in the UK retails for somewhere around the £100 to £109 mark. Must say, shout out to Colin Hilton, thank you very much for providing us this unit for review purposes, very much appreciated. So today we're going to be taking a look at this case and see what it's all about, do a bit of a teardown, give you some of my thoughts and opinions, and yeah, take it from there, see if this is going to be suitable for your next build. I think, personally, after having a look through it myself already and filming all the B-roll for this video, I think this actually stands out as being possibly one of the best cases on the market right now. And it does come included with 5 fans straight out of the box, so you get 3 120mm fans in the front, and you also get a reverse blade 120mm in the bottom, and also in the back you get a 140mm. Now all of these are the P series fans, all of which are readily available from Antec and other retailers, so if you want to you can add to them or remove them, change them around, do whatever you want to do. So yeah, pretty good start. All of them are PWM, and there is also an included PWM and ARGB hub already included, so if you do want to maybe take them out and put some RGB models in, then you certainly can do. The front panel section, like I said, 3 120mm fans in there. There is actually room in the front for up to 420mm radiators, and you can, of course, if you can do that, you can put in 3 140mm fans. I've actually tried that today, put some thermal take fans in there, some of the Swafan 140s, and they fitted in there no problems at all. And actually I think it looks considerably better with the fans being a little bit bigger in the front, and of course with that you're going to get a lot more airflow as well, so definitely an option and something to bear in mind. Now before we start stripping this down, obviously one of the key things of this, or one of the things which kind of highlights it a little bit, is the fact that we do have this wooden accent around the outside panel. Personally, I think I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more, maybe another splash of wood here, there, maybe on the inside or maybe on the top panel or something. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Maybe you don't like it at all. Again, do let me know. It's quite nice that it is actually a real wood, so this is using birch on this particular model, and included in the box they do give you a small sample of the wood which is used on a little card, so you can find out more about birch, the wood, and its characteristics. Not really a necessary thing, but I think it is actually a nice touch. Talking of a nice touch, something else I like on this as well, the fact that they've, rather than going for just a plain generic grille filter on the front, you've got these kind of indentations in them as well. In some instances this can help with airflow and to kind of stop some turbulence. Whether or not it does, honestly, don't know, couldn't tell you, but I do quite like the look of it anyway. And if you want to remove it to gain access, it's pretty easy to do. All you need to do, there is a small lip on the front, so you just grab the front there, give it a little bit of a tug, and it comes off relatively easily. There are 2 little indentations at the top of the frame, so that matches up on the inside. So installing it again, just rest it in there, match it up with those, and it just snaps into position. So very easy for maintenance, of which you may need to do because this is the only filtration on the front here, so there's no mesh behind it. It's just this quite nice porous mesh on there. It's a little bit more close mesh than I would have liked to have seen, maybe a little bit more open would have been better. But I guess it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be good for filtration and it's going to be pretty good for airflow, but not as good as it would be if it had a larger mesh. And with that out of the way, we can now see inside and see what's going on here. So the front panel section isn't removable, unfortunately. I would have liked to have seen it's been removable, but it's not the end of the world. The fan access, you actually attach them from the back, so the screws are in the back, so they're not having screws on show. And like I said, it comes with these 3 120mm P series fans from Antec, which are PWM. These are all pre-wired into the integrated hub. And again, like I said, if you want to, you can quite easily take these out and replace them with fans of your choice, up to 140mm in size, or combinations thereof. So 3 140s, I think, makes it look a lot nicer. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. So now we can look at the side panel. So the side panel, we've got tempered glass at the top section here, and at the bottom, again, we've got more of this mesh grille. This section is also removable as well. You do need to remove the glass first of all, and actually taking the panels off, pretty much it's a toolless affair. There are thumb screws on the back, so if I quickly undo one of those and just loosen it off, there is a little thumb press at the top, so just press that outward and the top section unpops, and then you can lift the glass out of the way. Now the glass on this model, the white version, is completely clear, totally transparent. There is protective coating front and back, so do make sure you remove that so you can see what is going on the insides. And with that out of the way, we can take a better look inside and see what is going on. So let's start off at the basement section. So the basement section, like I said, 2 screws, one there and one there. Undo those, this panel comes off to give you easy access to the insides. So if you need to do any maintenance, cleaning, adding on power supply cables, maybe looking at disk drives, etc. Very easy to do. Moving up from there, we've got this nice ventilated top section, or PSU basement, and they've also included one of these P-series reverse blade fans. So this is going to be drawing air from the bottom, mostly through this mesh and also elsewhere, and pushing it directly into the path of your graphics card, which obviously is a good thing. You can, if you want to, mount 140mm fans on here. So there is two sections, front and back. So you can put two 140s on there, or two 120s, should you wish to. The choice is yours. Or alternatively, if you want a slightly cleaner look, you could remove the fan altogether. Obviously, it is going to reduce some of the airflow towards your graphics card, but depending on what graphics card you've got, you may not actually need that, and you may prefer a cleaner aesthetic. Either way, easy to remove, and the screws are nicely coloured as well, so kind of silvery colour, which matches in with the whole design ethic. And also you do get additional screws, which are the longer ones, to actually attach other fans into the basement section. At the rear of the basement section, you've actually got rubber grommets, which I can actually pull those out. So nice plastic or rubber grommets. So for cable management, you can stick those in. There's actually two of those in this bottom section. So for keeping your wires and cables all managed, that's absolutely fine. And of course, you've got this mesh there to let airflow through as well. Something you'll notice as well, if we move along towards the front here, there's a little bit of a cutout towards the front there. So if you do want to put a radiator in here and maybe do some push-pull stuff, you can do. There's plenty of room there at the front, up to a 420mm radiator, as I've said already. You can put a 360 in there, whatever you want to do. It is designed for kind of water cooling in mind. So if you want to have a 420 rad in the front, you can still have a 280 in the top. Or alternatively, if 360 is more your thing, you can have a 360 in the front and a 360 in the top and still have clearance. So that's pretty decent, gives you plenty of options there. So yeah, 420 in the front, 280 in the top, whatever. Pretty good stuff. Also, you've got some more grommets there on the side for cable management, so it's nice to see those being put in there to make things look a little bit tidier. And also, you'll probably notice as well, there's lots and lots of cutouts. Now, this is designed so you can take advantage of some of the new rear connect motherboards, such as Project Zero or the BTF ones from Asus. You don't have to use a rear connect motherboard. Of course, you can use a traditional front connect motherboard, but you do have the cutout options there. So if you do want to try out some of the newer technology, then you certainly can do. Either motherboards are supported. And talking of supported, they actually support up to eATX. Now, eATX isn't quite an official standard as such, but you can put massive boards in there. There's actually some extra mounting screws on the side for absolutely huge motherboards, should you wish to, but it will take normal ATX, micro ATX, and ITX if you really wanted to. I can't see why you would want to, but potential is there, so you can if you want. If we move slightly towards the back there, although you can't really see it on this shot particularly, but I'll give you some close-ups that I've filmed earlier, you have got fully removable PCI Express brackets, and also something which I really do like to see is the fact that there's none of those support bars kind of in between the brackets. So if you do want to go for vertical mounting, although it doesn't support it directly out of the box, you can purchase pretty much any of the kind of universal type vertical mounts and it will fit in there pretty easily, and you can do that should you wish to. So just take out all of the brackets and you can put in a GPU vertically if you wanted to. Shame there isn't some kind of mechanism to allow that straight out of the box, but I guess for around about £100 it's not entirely unforgivable. You've got lots of ventilation on the back as well, and also above the PCI Express slots you've got the single P14 140mm PWM fan. Again, not RGB, just plain white one. They are relatively cheap fans, to be fair. They're probably not a particularly high value item, maybe £5 to £8 each if you're kind of buying them. I think they retail for a little bit more than that, maybe £10 to £15, depending on which ones you go on. Again, if you want to add more, you certainly can do. Potentially, I'd be tempted to replace them, put in some RGB ones, but again, down to the individual. Moving up towards the top, so again, plenty of cutouts at the top for passing through cables for radiators, fans, etc. And on the top, as we've said already, you can put in up to a 360mm AIO or a 280, 240s. If you just want to go for fans, either 3 120s or 2 140s in there, very easily. And also there's a pretty nice gap as well, about 60mm, so even if you're using some of the slightly larger radiators on the market at the moment with slightly chunkier fans, it's still not going to impede very much on the top of your motherboard for things like your EPS connectors, CPU fan headers, and all that kind of stuff. Next, let's move around to the back of the case. So yeah, pretty standard setup here. We've got your obviously IO cutout there, no sharp edges, which you'd kind of expect these days. All of this Pretty much the entire case has got the round mesh. Personally, I would have preferred to have seen the hexagonal mesh. That seems to have better strength and also is more open to allow more air to flow. I don't think airflow is going to be a problem in this because it's quite a big case anyway, and of course you've got all those fans, so airflow isn't going to be a problem at all. But yeah, I personally prefer the hexagonal mesh. Let me know what you think in the comments. Moving down, like I said, removable PCI Express brackets. Something else actually which I noticed, which not many cases do, but is starting to make some of an appearance. Thermaltake is one of those brands which seem to be doing it more so these days on some of their CTE range, but we've actually got some cable management points. So if you want to put in like your USB cables and all that kind of stuff and cable manage it down the side of your PC, you've got a couple of cutouts there so you can put a Velcro strap or some zip ties through. The choice is yours. At the bottom, obviously, ATX power supply support. That will take power supplies basically any size you want. The basement section inside is very open, but I think they say realistically if you keep the drive mounts in and you're putting drives in the bottom, around about 235 millimeters including cables, which is more than adequate for most power supplies. Most these days are somewhere between the 140 to 160 mil mark, so taking into account the cables as well, yeah, you've got plenty of room there, no issues at all. And next we'll take a look at the back panel. So the back panel, as you can see, pretty much standard affair, very flat. You do have intake at the bottom as well, so if you are putting drives in the bottom or you're going to be mounting those fans in there to get a little bit more air in, you can take a little bit of air in here. It isn't filtered at all, so you're just relying on that relatively tight mesh on there. And to remove it, again, very simple, essentially toolless. There is a thumb screw on here, so just undo the thumb screw. There's a little latch or lever here. Just gently push it away from the case and it pops out. You can hear that popping out. And it won't fall out. It is on a kind of rail system, so you can remove it and take it out. And taking a look on the inside, again, nothing really to shout about. It's nice to see that these little panel sections here, or the retention mechanism, is metal rather than plastic, so it means it's going to have some decent longevity. And it's actually quite a rigid panel as well, which is pretty nice. So with the side panel off, we can take a look inside and see what's going on. So as you can see at the top here, we've got the pre-installed ARGB and PWM hub, which has 5 ports for fans, which is a little bit redundant because obviously all of the fans are included, which takes up all 5 of the slots. So it would have been nice to see a few more ports on there. And also you've got 5 addressable RGB ports, and that's absolutely fine. Although it is a little bit on the kind of sticky outside, I think is the technical term. So it is sticking out a little bit, so just do be careful when you're putting your panels on that it doesn't touch or bend any potential sections that are plugged in there. And while we're on this side of the case, we'll take a look at some of the cable management. Now again, this is something which Thermaltake have been doing for a little while now on their tower cases, so it's nice to see that other brands are kind of taking note and seeing how things can be done and make life a little bit easier. So you've got these little plastic ridges here, so you can put all your cables down through there and yeah, it just holds them all into place. So it's nice to see that there, so you don't need to have any kind of cable ties or zip ties or sticky pads or anything to hold the cables down. So you've got that 1, 2, 3 of those there, taking it down towards the basement section. Again, like I said, with the basement section, really nice and open, up to 235 mil for power supplies if you're having cables as well. If you remove the drive cage in the bottom, obviously you can get a longer one if you wanted to. The drive cage will hold 2 drives, so you can put in a 3.5 on the bottom, 2.5 or 3.5 on the top. And also if you want to add more storage, there's another 2.5-inch bay here, so that is on a thumb screw, and you can remove that and take that out and put a drive in there should you wish to. That's kind of nice and fits in very nicely. Even one-handed is very easy to do. Of course, like we've said already, you've got all of the cutouts and punch outs for the back connect motherboard, so if you're using one of those, you'll find things like your ATX connector is going to be around here, your EPS and all that kind of stuff around here, bottom panel connections all around here, graphics card, etc, etc. So yeah, that's pretty good. I like that a lot. Moving slightly further over, again, we've got the rubber grommets for passing through your cables. Also as well, we've got this really nice cable management grid, so you've got actually laid out really nicely. So you've got a left-hand side section, which is for your kind of front panel I/O and fan wiring, and then you've got the section to the side there, which can take up your power cables. There are little punch outs in that as well, so if you want to add more cable ties to keep it nice and tidy, you definitely can do. So yeah, I think that's done very nicely indeed. Cable management on this is absolutely excellent. I've got no comments on it whatsoever. The only thing I would say possibly is it would have been nice to see the fans on the front having slightly longer cables, because this is a little bit on the tight side for 1 or 2 of them, but yeah, it's not the end of the world at all. It's absolutely fine. Moving down to the bottom again, so in terms of our front panel connectivity, got the usual kind of stuff you'd expect. So USB A's, you've got USB 3.0, so you've got 2 of those. You've also got your Type-C connection as well, and you've also got a HD audio connection. A little bit of a shame there is a little bit of ketchup and mustard or Fisher-Price stuff going on here, which is, yeah, not the end of the world, but it would have been nice to have seen that covered up completely. Of course, if you're using a back connect motherboard, it's going to be connecting down here somewhere, so you're never going to see it anyway. Something which is a little bit odd, kind of nice, but also kind of odd. The front panel connections, you've only got a reset button and also a power button. There's no power LED and there's no hard drive LED. Now, I'm not too sure how I feel about that. Normally, if you've got a case which is RGB, loads of lighting in there, it isn't a problem because you press the power button, the fans light up, you know the PC's on. Whereas with with this, there's no RGB, so you press the power button, other than your fans possibly spinning, you don't really have any kind of visual indication, and you certainly don't have any indication of hard drive activity, which potentially, if you're waiting for your hard drive to stop spinning or stop transferring data before you rip out the power cord, then yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world, but thought I'd mention it just in case there's anyone who desperately needs a power LED and a hard drive LED. I think that's pretty much it. Only other thing I would say for the actual hub, which is at the top there, it is powered. So it does require a SATA power connection to your power supply. And also it has a PWM, only 2 wires in there because it gets power from SATA, so it doesn't need the power, 5 volts or 12 volts or whatever it is. And also you've got your addressable RGB. So you can plug that into your motherboard and that will then give you 5 additional ports at the top. Other things of note, so at the bottom where the power supply rests, nice and open, very ventilated, and also there are 4 rubber or foam pads as well for the power supply to rest on to prevent any vibrations coming through to the rest of the case. So yeah, that's a pretty nice touch. Most only put 2 and rely on the power supply being kind of slightly up in the air or slightly lifted off the deck, whereas this is going to rest on there and it's going to be absolutely fine. Now we'll take a look at the bottom of the case, and no real surprises here, but something is actually pretty nice, which I do like to see. First of all, the feet, they're not too bad. I would have liked to see them a little bit taller, just a little bit more airflow in the bottom, but again, it's not too bad at all. You can always raise it up yourself if you wanted to. Something which is actually very nice is the removable filter. So it's a full-length filter which pulls out towards the front of the case, which makes maintenance so much easier, especially if you've got your PC on like a desk next to you or down underneath. You can just pull it out from the front rather than having to lay the case on the side and wrestle with those flimsy metal ones. So yeah, that's really good, and all the tracks are there to keep it nice and firmly in place. So yeah, I think they've done that particularly well. Also, with that pushed all the way out, you can just about see there's a couple of screws. That is for the hard drive cage, so if you want to, you can unscrew that and maybe move it forward or backwards a little bit. If space is a premium, you need that. Or alternatively, if you just want to take it out altogether to have it a little bit cleaner down there. Next, we'll take a look at the top of the case. So this is, again, relatively tight mesh on there. You do have your jacks there, so you've got your Type-C, you've got your 2 Type-A's, combo headset jack, you've got the reset button and the power button, so that's absolutely fine. You've also got a little bit of a Flux logo thing going on there. And to remove the top, again, is toolless. All you do is get your fingers underneath any of the lips around the side, and you can just pop that out. And this is actually, again, done really nicely, very strong metal, and you've got these metal parts as well to lock in to the plastic tabs. This then reveals what you've got going on here, so nice and open for radiators. And actually this is fully removable as well, so there are 2 screws in the front, which we'll take a look at now if we flip it up. So 1 screw there, 1 screw there, and that whole section will come out completely, so that if you're putting in radiators, fans, and you just want a little bit more dexterity, or you want to work on it in some way, then yeah, that's nice and open. And again, for getting to access to things like your EPS connections, if your radiator's kind of covering up a bit and you don't have the manual dexterity, you can just undo a couple of screws, flip it up, and got full access to it, which I think is really good. Again, in the top, you can have a 360mm radiator, 280mm radiator, 2 40s, or you can have 2 140mm fans and 3 120mm fans. So I think we've pretty much covered everything there. I've just put most of the case back together. There is also an accessories box as well. And in the accessories box, like I said, you do have the little bit of card with a little slither of birch on it, telling you about the wood panel front section and what birch characteristics are like. Apparently it's supposed to be quite flexible, but I don't particularly want to test that. And you also get a bag of screws. You also get some additional plastic kind of retaining sections. So if for any reason they get brittle and they crack or snap, as they potentially will do over time, then you've got some replacements of those. You can actually 3D print them as well. I have found many different places where you can get the instructions for that. Also, you've got some extension screws, as I said, for putting in the fans onto the bottom, should you wish to. So I think that is pretty much it for the Antec Flux. I've got to say, for £100, I really like this case. It's possibly the best case on the market for the money. It's a very difficult thing to say because with all the differences in kind of exchange rates and tariffs and all that kind of stuff, prices are all over the place. But I think for £100, this does offer a lot of value and a lot of flexibility. Having the options to put in so many radiators in here, I think is very good indeed. And I think the only other case which I would kind of compare to this in terms of flexibility and the layout and the kind of the features is the Thermaltake Series 500, which is basically behind me. Between the two, I would say in terms of design and actual looks, I think this looks nicer, but the Series 500 comes with ARGB fans, potentially it can do, depending on which version you get, and a little bit easier to access inside as well, but doesn't support rear connect motherboards, which is a shame. Unfortunately for that, you have to go to the Series 300 range, or the 330, 350 MX, etc. But yeah, overall, I really like this, and I am strongly considering putting my video editing rig into this and using it as my daily driver, because it can do all the things that I like it to do, and that is to run very quiet and have lots of airflow to keep my video editing rig nice and cool. I think I would definitely swap out the 120mm fans for some 140 ARGBs. As you've already seen, I've tried it already with the Thermaltake fans and they fit in there fine, and I think they look a lot nicer. And potentially I could get another set to have 2 on the bottom and 1 in the rear to make the whole thing matching, which would be very nice. But for a lot of people, if you're looking at the Antec Flux and you just look at it and think, oh, that's an interesting case, you may well want to just stick with it as it is. Being that it's all white and the fans are white, if you have any other RGB in the system, white generally does pick up those colours and reflections, so it's not going to look dark and dingy. It's going to look quite nice and bright and airy. Or maybe you're one of these people that just hates RGB anyway, and for you this is going to be a nice, light, bright, and actually very efficient means of putting all of your hard-earned PC components inside one case and still keep them all remarkably cool. So anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts on the Antec Flux. Massive shout out again to Colin Hilton for providing us with this review unit. Very much appreciated. If you've got any comments or questions on this case, please feel free to let us know in the comments section below. But I think that's going to wrap this one up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. And hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.